It's time now for County-Wide, a presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. You'll hear about the interesting issues and happenings that affect all our lives. Here's today's County-Wide.
Good day, and again, welcome to County-Wide. I'm Brad Miller, and we're happy to welcome back into the show a guest that was here just Tuesday, part 2, with Brian Watson. Brian is a former IRS agent, learned a lot of things about fraud and schemes and people trying to relieve innocent, honest people of their hard-earned wages, and now has taken that information and that experience to ROSE, Resources Outreach to Safeguard the Elderly. And I got to ask, were you inspired by your work with the IRS to start advocating on behalf of older folks? Did you see too much going on to victimize older folks with the IRS?
Very much so.
I would guess.
I was a special agent, so I conducted financial investigations,
right,
tax fraud, Ponzi schemes, mortgage fraud, things like that. But I spent about half my time as a public information officer. And as a PIO, we did two things. One was deterrence, telling people about criminal cases to discourage others. But I also spent about half my PIO time doing public outreach, primarily on the radio, a little bit of TV, but warning people about scams.
Right.
And a lot of the same scams I talked about with the IRS is the same scams I'm talking about now with ROSE. Because there's just a lot of crossover. A lot of the scams, they just follow a similar pattern. They're just they're the urgency,
because they
asking
work.
for money, and because they work. Yeah. And talking to the public and warning public about scams has always been my favorite thing. So this was an easy transition so far to going from federal government law enforcement to the nonprofit world.
This makes sense. Well, let's do that. Let's jump in as we did on Tuesday. Had some great information about the grandparent scam, as it's come to be called, but they never run out of different ideas about how to victimize innocent folks, and too often that means our elderly population. I've not heard of this one yet. Through the U.S. Postal Service, there's a text message fraud or scam out there? Yes,
I've received these texts. It's a latest example of smishing, and smishing is using the term, the acronym SMS, which is short message service. Okay. So it's basically a text message comes in claiming to be from the U.S. Postal Service, and many of us ordered things that show up at our house. Sure. So deliveries are normal these days. We order a lot of stuff on Amazon or through other companies. Right. And they say there's an issue with your delivery and you need to confirm your address. So you're asked to click on a link. Well, I watched a cyber expert who I follow on LinkedIn. And what he did is, on a safe computer, he went on and clicked on the link from the text message.
As if he was
following
along
for
with
it.
the scam. Okay.
And it looked pretty professional, and that's where they get you. And they ask for your email. They'll ask you to confirm your address. Then you hit next, and you go to the next page. They ask for your credit card number.
Oh, yeah.
And they say they're going to charge you a nominal fee, 30 cents, to resend or put your package back out on the truck and come out to your house. Well, think about it. They're not going to just take 30 cents. They are going to, they're going to get you. Now, with a credit card, you have more protection than other things because you could petition the credit card company to have that reversed. Most of these scams we actually see it's the gift cards, it's the wire transfers. Those are things you're not going to get your money back. But here's the thing. I went to the U.S. Postal Service site just to educate myself, and basically they will not send customers text messages or emails without the customer first requesting the service with a tracking number, and that you will not get a link. So if you do not click on any links from the Postal Service
unless you've
initiated it. But just
the
safest thing to do is go to the U.S. Postal Service website or stop by the local post office. But no, they're getting these people. My mom has received multiple ones. I've received multiple ones on my phone. So they're very prevalent, and we know that they're working, or else they wouldn't be sending them in the volume that they're doing right now.
I believe I've seen them. If I don't know who it is, I just delete and it's gone, and then I block the number typically. But a lot of people don't. You don't do that. Where I'm at, we talk with folks like you. We talk with law enforcement a lot. So a lot of us here at the radio station, we think of ourselves as being fairly savvy about this stuff. And I know as soon as I say that, I'm knocking on wood, because I know these people are even more clever. and they don't quit. They're relentless, and they're very good at victimizing people. Okay, one more to think about, the Postal Service. And you hear that a lot, that when these kind of come, that Postal Service, law enforcement agencies are not going to just contact you out of the blue unless something is very, very specifically happening. And even then, it's not going to be kind of an anonymous type text like you kind of mentioned.
Right.
There's
the phishing emails and text messages are probably the most prevalent thing we see.
Yeah.
Just because.
And what does that mean, phishing?
So phishing is basically phony. Think of it as phony emails.
Okay.
And they're trying to trick you into clicking on a link. And they'll make it appear that it's coming from a law enforcement agency or a company that you're doing business with.
Okay.
So, for instance, I see ones for Bank of America all the time. Well, I don't bank at Bank of America.
Okay.
I bank at Wells Fargo. Okay. So I know from Bank of America, I know it's a scam.
Right.
But if it came from Wells Fargo, I might take a second peek. But then, you start looking at it and you realize there's some grammar and weird stuff and the fonts are a little off. But then here's the clue. You hover your mouse over the box that says click here. Because what they're trying to do is like telling you that your account's been compromised or it's on a freeze because of potential fraud.
We're here to help.
Of course.
That's what they're trying to get you to believe.
Hover your mouse over that blue box or the orange box or whatever color box it is, and you'll realize you'll see off to the side, it's trying to take you to a really obscure website. It's not taking you to wellsfargo.com.
And that'll pop up on the screen.
Right.
Gotcha.
And then also on the email, you'll see the email it's coming from. It's a very long, obscure email, or they'll take the Wells Fargo or Bank of America and change one little letter.
Gotcha.
So that's why it's so important not to open up these emails on your smartphone. Your smartphone is far too small. You're not going to see this stuff. If you have any doubt whatsoever,
you're talking just screen size.
Screen size, it's tiny.
Gotcha.
But with a big screen at home, you can hover your mouse over there and go, "Yep, this is a scam."
Okay,
so
that's good advice.
Don't ever click on links because the links they're going to send you to a place where they're going to ask for personal information to commit identity theft or steal money from you, or they're going to put malware, malicious software on your computer, and they're going to come in later and be able to have access to your computer.
Yeah, it's never going to be a good thing.
No, that's the biggest, I think the biggest threat out there is the phishing emails and the smishing text messages.
It seems like when you're talking particularly banking or things like that, where you're going to likely have some kind of a local contact, it seems like, hang up, certainly don't respond, whatever else you do, and then call or visit your local bank branch or whomever it is. Get a local contact where they haven't supplied the number on that suspicious email or phone call or whatever, but you can look it up independently and you'll know it's verified and it's correct.
And then what my dad does is he calls my son all the time with questions. But that's the key. My dad doesn't react right away. He waits.
Like computer technical?
Yeah, so, there's...
that's the way to do it, though.
My son's the smartest one in the family when it comes to high-tech stuff, and so Grandpa calls him. He'll go over there and, just clean things up on his computer, and he'll say, "Grandpa, this is a scam," or, "You don't need this."
Right.
And so, but the key there is my dad is waiting.
Right.
And he's seeking advice.
And as you referred to, on Tuesday, when we were kind of talking about this, that, sometimes you just got to slow down, ask for advice. If you don't have youngsters, they're the best resource. You can contact folks, including Rose, the resource outreach to safeguard the elderly. Tell me the website again before we break.
roseadvocacy.org.
Look there, and you can find out about some of these scams, some of the more quote-unquote popular ones or frequent ones that come through our area. We'll talk more about that with Brian Watson when Countywide returns right after this.
Life changes, then it changes again. Predicting the unexpected in life is impossible. That's why it's called unexpected. So when it comes to financial goals, our philosophy is don't predict, prepare. Hi, I'm Edward Jones financial advisor Matthias Sandoval. A job loss, change in health, or a loss of a loved one can have a big impact on your family's financial security. Let's work together to help make sure you're equipped for life's unexpected events. Call our office to schedule a face-to-face appointment.
Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Verde Solaire, your hometown heating, air conditioning, and plumbing company in the Verde Valley. And your trusted North Central Arizona Goodman dealer. Goodman is a name you can trust with the revolutionary Comfort Bridge technology, factory installed into select Goodman gas furnaces and air handlers to ensure the entire system operates at peak energy efficient performance. Verde Solar offers free in-home estimates, locally owned and operated since 1983. Visit them at verdesolar.com. Better, cleaner, faster.
Thank you so very much for your generosity and kindness in helping others. I hope that you take advantage of the many Arizona state tax credits available when giving to qualified charities and schools. If you haven't taken advantage, I hope you'll ask your favorite charity if they qualify. You can go to Arizona Department of Revenue website, search for tax credits, and look at the list of qualifying charities. Then look at your latest Arizona income tax return and see how an Arizona tax credit can benefit many. This is Lewis saying thanks again.
Let's talk. That's the message from Jonna Randall Murdoch, your local Farm Bureau agent, providing a personal touch when making insurance and financial decisions. Jonna will simplify your insurance needs while offering competitive pricing. Let's talk auto, home, life, and farm. Call Jonna at Farm Bureau today at 928-649-8686. Your Cottonwood Farm Bureau Property and Casualty Insurance Company. At Farm Bureau, they insure more than just farms.
We welcome you back to the program. I'm Brad Miller. It is Countywide. Brian Watson is here, and Brian is with Resources Outreach to Safeguard the Elderly. ROSE is the acronym, and I'm going to kind of turn the mic over. You've got a story that kind of is personal to you. It is about someone you know in person, and someone lost a ton of money through one of these scams.
Right. In August, a friend of mine who's a former IRS special agent, he called me up and said, hey, my mother-in-law just fell for a scam. What should we do? Who should we talk to? And I was giving him some advice on, who to reach out to. And he told me what happened. She got a phone call, and it was claiming to be from Norton. And they said she had a refund due on her online subscription. So they're not calling and asking for money. They're calling to offer her money. And they said,
Norton is
Norton, like an antivirus.
Gotcha. Okay.
Norton,
okay.
It's connected with, an online subscription with a service, and it could be any company,
right.
And what they told her is the only way that we can pay you back is if we go on your computer, and you have to enter in the number of the refund. So she allowed them access to her computer, remote access.
They walked her through
the steps.
Her through it.
Oh my God. They sent her a link. She clicks on the link. It allows access. And then they put this little graphic up on her screen for the refund. And they told her, okay, you need to punch in the number. And it was a nominal amount of money. We're talking under $500.
Okay.
But the way they have it set up, they made it add 2 zeros. So then they told her, no, you just stole from us, and the call changed from "we're here to help you" to "oh, we're going to sue you" or "we're going to call the police." Instead of being $500, it was they added a couple zeros.
So they're taking her by the hand and walking her through a problem that she wants to avoid on her computer with one or two mouse clicks that she's been instructed to make. Now she's become a villain.
Right,
and a potential criminal.
And they say, you need to pay us back right now. And instantly, they wanted her to pay by gift cards. And that's always a red flag with the scammers.
Yeah.
But at some point, and they kept hounding her and threatening her, and she found herself down at her bank, transferring money from accounts, putting it in one account, and wiring money overseas. And she ended up losing over $20,000.
Oh, my God.
You think about that. That money could fund a kid's education.
And probably was going to.
It
was there for a reason.
Fund a family trip, pay, and some people can absorb that. Some people, that's maybe most of their life savings. But it's really horrible. But that's the thing is, you have to be prepared for those calls.
Now, this was especially demeaning. Let me make sure I'm understanding. There was the call, and as you talked about, but then at some point the call ended, but the scheme was still running. The clock was still moving because she left her home. Right?
Yeah,
she went out and got gift cards. And
because they even though I know that at some point the phone call ended, but they kept calling her back saying, you owe us this money. You stole this money from us. You put too big of a number on the screen when we were giving you the refund. They turned the tables on her, and they accused her, and they kept saying, we're going to either arrest you or sue you. You need to pay us now. And here was her mistake. She didn't call anybody in the family.
Right.
She could have called my friend. She could have called my friend's wife.
Right.
She could have called anybody else and said, hey, these people are saying I owe them money, but she didn't. They may have told her not to tell anyone else.
Probably so, right?
And threatened her with that. But she lost that money. And of course, she's embarrassed.
Yeah.
And
did she immediately, once the money was paid? I'm just curious. And the poor thing, I'm not trying to make light of her situation or say what a silly old lady.
Well, at some point, she did share it with the family members.
Okay.
And they tried to chase the money down. And they were actually very upset with the bank for her allowing her to do that.
That's a question I've always had.
It goes bank by bank whether they can stop someone. It is their money. You can do what you want with your money, but most banks have signs up. They will have you sit down with them. They'll tell you, hey, we think this is a scam. Let's call someone else in here. Is there a family member we can call?
Right.
But no, these things happen all the time. And if you think you're not going to fall for it, you're being a little naive.
Yeah, right.
We could all fall for this because
right.
in a certain set of circumstances, these criminals are following a script that works, and they are professionals and they know what they're doing.
Yeah, this just makes me mad, Brian, sitting here talking to you. It's like every time I see you now, I'm going to get angry because of what people are doing.
It's very
innocent folks.
When I hear about people being defrauded, it's very motivating for me. It was when I was in federal law enforcement,
right.
and it's motivating for me now that I'm in the nonprofit fraud prevention world.
Yeah.
Because then I sit there and think, well, I didn't tell enough people. I didn't know about that scam. So what we're doing right now is very important. And then anybody listening, share these stories. Tell other people. Think about someone in your circle of friends and family that could fall for something like this.
We had right here in Cottonwood, and I know I've told this story before, so I'll make it really quick. We did a story about this fraud. This is years ago in the newsroom. And we put out this story about fraud, and it was the grandparent, the Facebook scam. And maybe 2 hours later, a fellow showed up here in town who'd heard our local newscast and had lost $6,000 to that exact scam. He was in tears. He was crying his eyes out because he had been taken. He was so embarrassed. We wanted to talk to him on the air. He wouldn't. I totally understood that, and God bless him. I've seen him around. He's still around. And just the defeat on his face, the humiliation on his face, the embarrassment that he had been taken. But he'd been taken by the best of the best. These people really know what they're doing. And I say that simply to underscore that anybody can be taken. And to further victimize an elderly person especially, or to make them feel, Grandma, how could you be so dumb? That's not going to help.
No, the one thing we know about victims is you don't want to shame them. You don't want to, because that just piles on and makes it worse. What I'm hoping is that gentleman wasn't contacted again, because they will come after you repeatedly.
Yeah, I don't know, but
and hopefully and I'm hoping too that he went to the local police department or contacted the FBI to let them know about this scheme, because law enforcement can share this information and we can put schemes together, and we can actually. I'm saying we.
Yeah,
I've only been out of federal law enforcement a short amount of time, so it's still part of my DNA and part of my soul at this point. But law enforcement can combine all these different schemes and losses to help build a criminal case. Yeah,
and it just goes on and on and on. It's just it's just awful. Let me ask you a little bit. You mentioned this on our previous show, but it's as underscored by your talk here with us today again, is that folks, if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, and you have an elderly parent, these conversations are as important as any you can have. About computer fraud, about phone fraud, about all this stuff. That's absolutely as important as any other conversation that you need to have with elderly parents.
Right. You just want them to be aware and say, you don't have to answer every phone call that comes to your house. And if someone does call, you can hang up on them and say you're not interested.
Right.
And then just tell them, emails and text messages, don't click on links. And then just say, hey, if you ever have any doubt whatsoever, call me anytime.
Put a stop to it. Hang
Buy
up.
a timeout. Do a timeout and say, I need to talk to my my son or daughter. I need to talk to my CPA, my attorney, and then hang up and then buy time.
Yeah.
Get a second opinion.
Is there any estimate? I know you don't have numbers maybe right in front of you, but any estimate how much money is lost to this kind of fraud in a year's time in the U.S., say?
So we do have a figure that's on our website. for Rose, and it's $82 million. But we know that's just a fraction.
That's what's reported.
That's what's reported because a lot of people either they're embarrassed, they don't want to report it, or they don't know who to report it to, or in even some cases, they don't even know they've been ripped off.
Mm-hmm.
Some people lose money in a scam, and then they think they've just paid off some creditor, or they don't think anything bad happened, and then until the criminals keep calling again. But $82 million in Arizona per year for like 2022, and like I said, that's a conservative lowball estimate.
Sure. Wow, devastating. All right, we need to take a short break. We'll come back, wrap it up. Great information from Brian Watson, and we'll return to Countywide right after this.
Life changes, then it changes again. Predicting the unexpected in life is impossible. That's why it's called unexpected. So when it comes to financial goals, our philosophy is don't predict, prepare. Hi, I'm Edward Jones financial advisor Matthias Sandoval. A job loss, change in health, or a loss of a loved one can have a big impact on your family's financial security. Let's work together to help make sure you're equipped for life's unexpected events. Call our office to schedule a face-to-face appointment.
Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Verde Solaire, your hometown heating, air conditioning, and plumbing company in the Verde Valley, and your trusted North Central Arizona Goodman dealer. Goodman is a name you can trust with the revolutionary Comfort Bridge technology, factory installed into select Goodman gas furnaces and air handlers to ensure the entire system operates at peak energy efficient performance. Verde Solaire offers free in-home estimates, locally owned and operated since 1983. Visit them at verdesolaire.com. Better, cleaner, faster.
Thank you so very much for your generosity and kindness in helping others. I hope that you take advantage of the many Arizona state tax credits available when giving to qualified charities and schools. If you haven't taken advantage, I hope you'll ask your favorite charity if they qualify. You can go to Arizona Department of Revenue website, search for tax credits, and look at the list of qualifying charities. Then look at your latest Arizona income tax return and see how an Arizona tax credit can benefit many. This is Lewis saying thanks again.
Let's talk. That's the message from Jonna Randall Murdoch, your local Farm Bureau agent, providing a personal touch when making insurance and financial decisions. Jonna will simplify your insurance needs while offering competitive pricing. Let's talk auto, home, life, and farm. Call Jonna at Farm Bureau today at 928-649-8686. Your Cottonwood Farm Bureau property and casualty insurance company. At Farm Bureau, they insure more than just farms.
We come back to Countywide and wrapping up the second of two programs that we have done with Brian Watson. Resources outreach to safeguard the elderly. Rose, advocating on behalf of elderly folks, especially in the face of scams and ripoffs and things like that. What is this this credit limit cash advance thing? What is that?
So we're hearing stories of criminals contacting people, and they'll suck all the money out of their bank account, but then they want more. So they'll tell them to take a cash advance on their credit card at like 25 or 30%. And so they're just tapping into more money. So my recommendation is this. Do you really need the cash advance on your credit card? Have you ever used it? If not, contact your credit card company and shut that off. You can do that proactively so that even if you were the victim of a scheme, it would be limited to what's in your bank account.
If someone were to steal or find your lost credit card, could they get a cash advance off of it?
Possibly, exactly as well. So, and that also goes to, think about how many credit cards you have. Do you, one or two? Do you need 4 or 5? No.
Right.
Close them down, especially as you're getting older. Think about the credit limits as well. If you have a family of 4 or 5, you may need a higher credit limit. But as you get older and maybe, you have no one else in the house.
Right.
Contact the credit card company and lower the credit limits. They're, to something to maybe $2,000 or $3,000 instead of $10,000. Right. So these are things that you can do proactively. These are things you can have conversations with your older parents and say, Mom and Dad, let's reduce the credit cards with the ones you have. Let's lower the credit limits. And then also let's eliminate the possibility of cash advances.
Right.
Because it's just, it's a liability, an area where you could be defrauded.
It's an open door that
it
probably
really
doesn't need to be open.
And it's just something that can be done now.
Yeah. That's almost a whole nother show right there, Brian. A wealth of information. We really appreciate your experience in working with this and that you've shifted it a little bit, especially to advocate on behalf of elderly folks. So many elderly people in our community and across Arizona and Rose. Resources outreach to safeguard the elderly is is there on behalf, working with law enforcement and other people in the community to keep the bad guys as far away as we can get them. Again, let's have the website.
roseadvocacy.org. And we're also on Facebook. You can follow us on Facebook, but what we really love people to do is go to our website, roseadvocacy.org, and sign up for our monthly newsletter. You'll get it by email. You can also get it mailed to you by snail mail. We can do that as well.
Take a look at the website and find out all that terrific information. Good stuff. Brian Watson, our guest. I'm Brad Miller. It's Countywide, and we'll see you next time.
This has been Countywide. Listen in each Tuesday and Thursday at this time. If you have a topic or guest idea that you'd like to suggest, email us, news@myradioplace.com.